Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm going to begin reading the book Kabbalah Secrets Christians Need to Know, an in-depth study of the kosher pig and the gods of Jewish mysticism by Deanne Loper. I will be starting with Chapter 4, Repairing the World, the secret law of Tikkun and the tree of knowledge. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9. So let no one judge you in food or in drink, or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbath, which are a shadow of things to come, but the substance is of Christ. Colossians chapter 2, verse 16 and 17. The secret must be kept inside the circle of the initiates. The Sephiroth were revealed to Adam in the shape of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. The rabbis have always taught that the tree of knowledge and the tree of life are one and the same, whose roots are now in heaven, leading all the way back to the future, to the never-ending source of the light of the Ein Sof. There are many secrets in the occult science of Kabbalah. Concealed in the shattering of the vessels of the Sephiroth tree is the fall of Lucifer and the powers of his kingdom. But the kingdom must be restored. The universe and its broken vessels must now be repaired. This is the secret law of Tikkun. From the dust of this cosmic catastrophe, the universe is reconstructed. Through the primordial Adam Kadmon, who is the creator of the earthly atom, from Ein Sof, healing, constructive lights go forth from the forehead of Adam Kadmon. The spheres of the Sephiroth are reconfigured on a new plane: father, mother, masculine, feminine, the impatient, God of revelation in traditional Judaism, and his feminine complement, the Shekinah, the last stage of the world of emanation. With the reconstruction of the Sephiroth, there is once again a balance of male and female forces. There is unity between God and the recreated universe. Emerging from Shekinah is the one tree, and it is here that we see the creation of man by Adam Kadmon. In the secret tradition of the rabbis, Adam the man is a microcosm of the upper worlds, a divine reflection of the image of Adam Kadmon above. In Kabbalah, the sin of Adam is not attributed to his disobedience to God in eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but is the premature separation of the unity of the Sephiroth tree. Gershom Scholem notes that in the original sin, the fruit was separated from the tree, or as another Kabbalist puts it, the tree of life from the tree of knowledge. Far from the biblical Christian view, Scholem reveals in detail the esoteric belief of the Jewish sages concerning these doctrines in the book of Genesis. In the opinion of the Jewish mystics, both trees are, in essence, one. They grow out into two directions from a common trunk, out of the common matrix of the divine world. The sin of Adam was that he isolated the tree of life from the tree of knowledge, to which he directed his desire. Once the unity of the two trees in men's lives were destroyed, there began the dominion of the tree of knowledge. What happened before happens again. The matrix shatters, the singular tree becomes the tree of duality. Now begins the work of Tikkun. Adam's job was to complete the work of repairing the worlds begun by Adam Kadmon. Instead, the divine light departed from Adam's soul and the worlds descended into chaos. Tohu. The female Shekinah, now separated from the masculine, descends again into exile. destroying the dream of God. And so it shattered. The very core of reality is God's shattered dream, waiting for us to pick up the pieces. The fire of the sun, the air we breathe, the roaring waves of the oceans and all that lives in them. The earth and the plants and animals that live upon it, even the human flesh, its vital soul, and the angels above. All are no more than artifacts of the sparks that fell in the explosion of that primordial world. But the essence of the human being, the breath of God within us, that is God Himself gathering, refashioning, and piecing back together an impossible dream. It is humankind, not the angels, who can pick it up and reveal it. That the infinite light is everywhere is an axiom of the Kabbalah, held captive within every object, even within evil itself. The concept of shattered and fallen sparks comes from the Kabbalah system of Isaac Luria, which, as stated above, is still the most influential form of Kabbalah today. The same website quoted above also states the most common Jewish liturgy today follows the form of the Ari's custom. Embedded within the system are the secret laws of Tikkun and Mitzvot, the main channels through which the redemption, Geula, will come according to Kabbalah. The word Tikkun means reparation, to repair. It is through Tikkun that the world will be healed and brought closer to the harmonious state for which it was created. The rabbis of Kabbalah believe that the final redemption and the Messianic era will only be brought about through mitzvot, observing Torah, keeping the commandments, and performing good deeds. The word mitzvot is defined as commandments, one of the Torah's 613 divine commandments, a good deed or religious precept. The work of repairing the worlds, of restoring the fallen Shekinah to her king, and of ushering in the Moshiach, Messiah, is now left to man. This is called raising the sparks. But the essential function of the law, both of the Noachide law binding on all men and of the Torah imposed specially upon Israel, is to serve as an instrument of the Tikkun. Every man who acts in accordance with the law, or this law, brings home the fallen sparks of the Shekinah and of his own soul as well. He restores the pristine perfection of his own spiritual body. In redemption, everything is restored to its place. By the secret magic of human acts, every commandment has its mystical aspect, whose observance creates a bond between the world of man and the world of the Sephirot. Thus, fundamentally, every man, and especially every Jew, participates in the process of the Tikkun. The Babylonian Talmud is the basis for the 7 Noachide laws. Sanhedrin of the Babylonian Talmud states, one additional element of greater severity is that violation of any one of the 7 laws subjects the Noachide to capital punishment by decapitation. This is another disturbing secret contained in the writings of the Jewish sages, mitzvot for non-Jews, or Noachide laws. I mention it here for its close connection to Tikkun. While Jews, specifically the Jewish sages, see themselves as the main conduit of the light of Ein Sof, Gentiles also have a role to play in the mitzvot of Tikkun by obeying the 7 Noachide laws. I will not list them all here, but preeminent among them is the prohibition of idolatry. Therefore, under Talmudic law, if a Christian acknowledges that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, the Son of God, or God manifest in the flesh, he or she is guilty of the crime of idolatry. The 7th or last Noachide law is the injunction to establish a legal system to execute the other 6 Noachide laws, which are punishable in the severest extreme by capital punishment. The Encyclopedia Judaica, in its article on Noachide laws, states, except for the last, all are negative, and the last itself is usually interpreted as commanding the enforcement of the others. While these laws are not yet in effect, they are already considered binding on all men, and have been written into the legal system under public law in the United States. On March 26, 1991, the U.S. Congress, under the presidency of George Herbert Walker Bush, established the 7 Noachide laws as Public Law 102-14 under congress.gov in honor of Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, leader of the Chabad Lubavitch. A website dedicated to the teachings of the Chabad Lubavitch rabbis confirms the perfection of the world requires the spreading of the 7 Noahide commandments. This implies a level of civilized conduct which can be achieved only when non-Jews also observe their mitzvot. Indeed, the perfection of the world that leads to the Messianic era requires the spreading of the 7 commandments that God, through the Torah, provided for all the nations of the world. See also the U.S. Congressional Declaration, H.J. Resolution 104, Public Law 102-14, March 20th, 1991. The path of the mystic, knowledge through ascension. And no man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. And he said unto them, You are from beneath, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. John chapter 3, verse 13, and chapter 8, verse 23. In Kabbalistic Judaism, the primary work of Tikkun, the repair of the world, is dependent on the Jewish sages ascending the Sephiroth tree, so they can transmit the knowledge of the kingdom of God to the nations of the world. It is the task of the people of Israel to bring the glory of God's kingdom to all creation, even to the nations of the world. Divine influx flows into the world through the spiritual leaders of Israel, to the people of Israel, to the nations of the world, to all of creation. The Zohar teaches that at the separation of the Sephiroth tree, a chasm was formed between the creation and Ein Sof. Everything in the cosmos descended. Therefore, there must be a way to return to the source through the portals of the Sephiroth. Each sephira on the tree of knowledge is a gateway through which the mystic must pass through on the path of enlightenment. As stated before, these spheres or gateways are designated as powers. Through deep contemplation and visualization, the initiate is mystically transported through the gates of the Sephiroth from level to level, hoping to merit a vision of the divine. It is not by chance that this form of contemplative prayer has now entered the church at a phenomenal rate. This has resulted in an elevation of seeking mystical experiences with God over faith in Jesus Christ, the Word of God. The word Zohar means radiance. The full title is Sefer HaZohar, or the Book of Light. In Rabbinic Judaism, the Zohar is considered the masterpiece of Kabbalah and divinely inspired. In Kabbalah, the contemplative practice of meditation is said to draw down the rays of light that emanate from the Sephiroth. The rabbis explain that it is through action accompanied by speech and fervent meditation directed towards a particular thing that a person can draw down a force from above and cleave to that object. In ascension, the heavenly visions of the mystics are invoked through repetition of the divine or sacred names of the gods of Kabbalah. Gershom Scholem explains prayer in the mystic way. The main path, the mystic way, involved the ascent of the soul to a state of ecstatic rapture through a process of concentrated thought and meditation. The hierarchy of the spiritual worlds reveals itself to the Kabbalists in the time of prayer as one of the many names of God. It is the name of the appropriate sephira on which the mystic concentrates when reciting the prayers, and into which he is, as it were, absorbed. Prayer has an aspect of inward magic by which it is empowered to help order and restore the upper worlds. The name Lucifer means light bearer. The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, tells us that Satan transforms himself into an angel of light, deceiving today just as he deceived Eve in the Garden of Eden, with knowledge and the prospect of becoming as God. Genesis chapter 3, verse 5. The rabbis of Kabbalah believe themselves to be more than mere man, elevated above the rest of humanity, a microcosm of the Sephiroth of the Godhead, which is the macrocosm. Like cause and effect, every action below impacts the worlds above. The Zohar calls this an unalterable law. Now you must know that everything has an inner aspect and an outer aspect. In the world as a whole, Israel, the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is considered to be the innermost aspect. The 70 nations are considered to be the outer aspect of the world. There is an unalterable law that the macrocosm, the totality, and the microcosm, the individual, are as like to each other as two drops of water. Through the study of the Zohar and the practice of the true wisdom, we can bring about an end to our state of exile and a complete redemption. The redemption of Israel and all the worth of Israel is dependent on the learning of the Zohar and the innermost aspect of the Torah. The true unalterable law is that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All are in need of the true redemption and salvation that only comes through faith in Jesus Christ, the true light. This includes every rabbi and every Jew, from the least to the greatest, as well as every non-Jew. This lie of the superiority of the Jewish race is leading the way in one of the greatest deceptions in the history of the church, the coming of a false Messiah through the Hebrew roots and sacred name movements. At its inception, the Hebrew roots movement seemed to begin innocently, enough as a means for those wanting to identify with the Jewish roots of their faith. Today it is completely morphed into another gospel of works built on the foundation of Jewish fables, which we are warned about in the Bible. It is common today to hear Christian ministers say, that the Jewish people do not need to come to faith in Jesus Christ because they have their own covenant with God. But it is a covenant with death and hell that will not stand. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 18, because it is rooted in the satanic lies of Kabbalah. All right, that is the end of chapter 4.